Hello, welcome back. It's Michael here again with another episode of The Joy of Code. And today is the day where it actually starts getting somewhat more interesting. The last couple of episodes we spent with an introduction and installation, which is necessary to get you started because I want you to play along, but it's not the most exciting bit. So today we actually finally get to play a bit with Greenfoot and do something a bit more interesting. I want you to try out those things yourself that I'm going to show you. So to do this, you will have to start up Greenfoot and open the scenario that I'm going to show you. So you need to first download and get the scenario. You can download the scenario. It's called Hedgehogs. You can download it from my blog. I will show the address of the blog here on screen. So in case you're watching this video not from my blog but somewhere else on YouTube or another location, go to that blog. You get a little bit of additional information there, and most importantly, you get to download the scenario that I'm showing you so that you can try it out yourself. I will explain today some of the most fundamental concepts of object orientation so that we start understanding some of the structure and of the terminology. The two most important concepts in object-oriented programming is that of a class and an object, and so that's what I will be talking about and a little bit more. And hopefully at the end you understand what a class is, what an object is, and how they fit together. But enough of talking, let's open up Greenfoot and have a look what that all looks like in Greenfoot. Here I now have Greenfoot open on my screen. What I'm seeing here is the Greenfoot application, but there is no scenario open at the moment. A scenario in Greenfoot is what we call a project or a program that we are currently working on. So by using the scenario menu here, I can either create a new scenario or open an existing one. For the work today, I would like you to open the Hedgehog scenario, which you can download from the website. When you open the Hedgehog scenario, this is what you will see on screen. So let's look at what we can see in the main window of Greenfoot. Here, the large green area is what is called the world in Greenfoot. The world is where our program will execute. In this case, I've got a grassy looking area here, which is actually called garden. So my world here consists of a garden. On the right hand side here I see a diagram, and this diagram shows me some classes, and here we're getting into the first bit of important terminology, that of a class. That's an important concept in object orientation. A class represents a set of all things of a kind. So for example, the class hedgehog represents all hedgehogs. The class defines what a hedgehog looks like, what it can do, how it behaves, and so on. So this is a definition of all hedgehogs in my program. From a class, I can then create objects. I can right-click on the class and I get a pop-up menu, and the first entry in this pop-up menu says New Hedgehog. I can select this, and that gives me an actual hedgehog object which I can then place into the world. So here, now I've got an object. Again, this is an important concept in object-oriented programming. I will write programs in Java by programming objects to do things, and I program objects by programming their class. So I can write program code about all hedgehogs, and then I can create hedgehog objects that can actually do something then. If I have an object like this hedgehog in my world, I can right-click on this object and I can see a list of actions that this object can perform. So this hedgehog, for example, can move. There's a move instruction here in the menu. If I select move, that hedgehog moves forward. Let's do that again, and it moves forward. I can see there are other actions here. Turn left, for example. If I select turn left, I'm telling this hedgehog to turn left. These actions in Java are called methods. That's another important bit of terminology. Because Java calls them methods, I will from now on also call them methods, so that we get straight into the right terminology to use for Java. So this object here has a number of methods, and by selecting these methods, or we also say by invoking these methods, I can give instructions to my hedgehog. I can tell it to move forward or to turn left, or a number of other things. There's one, for example, eat apple. Eat apple at the moment isn't that interesting because I don't have any apples in the world. If I say eat apple, it will just not do anything because there is no apple. But we can make it eat an apple in a moment. Before we do that, one other important aspect of object-oriented programming is that from a class you can create actually many objects. So here from the hedgehog class I can create another hedgehog, or another one, or another one. So I can have many objects of a certain class. These objects are sometimes also called instances. An instance and an object means pretty much the same thing. Sometimes I call these objects. Sometimes when I want to emphasize that this object is of a specific class, I may call it an instance. That we say this object here is an instance of class hedgehog. So it is a hedgehog object. Now I've got another class here called apple. If I create an apple object, I can place an apple into the world. So now we can see whether our hedgehog can eat an apple. I can now make it move forward so that it sits on top of the apple, and then I tell this hedgehog to eat the apple, and the apple is gone. I can also inspect this object. If I inspect it, I'm opening it up and I can look inside the object, and I see inside the object there is a number of things are being stored. And here, for example, it has stored how many apples it has currently eaten. It has an x and a y coordinate. The coordinate actually defines the position on screen, and it currently has an x coordinate of 3 and a y coordinate of 2. If we just put that to the side a bit and move that a bit and watch this, the x coordinate is 3. If I tell this hedgehog now to move, it goes one forward, and now the x coordinate has changed to 2. So I can see that internally it keeps track of its coordinate as in a coordinate system, and we will see a bit later that here you can see the cells in the coordinate system. The 0, 0 position is actually the top left of my screen, and the x position goes to the right and the y position goes down. So now here it's at x position 0, 1, 2, and the y position 0, 1, 2. So that is the 2 and 2 that we're seeing here. I can see that it has a rotation, so it remembers which way it's looking, and then it has here references to an image and the world. This is a fair amount of detail already that we will study in more detail later. You don't need to understand all the detailed aspects of that just yet. One other important thing to investigate is one method here that is called act. The act method is special in Greenfoot. I can invoke act here, and then that hedgehog will just do whatever it wants to do. The act method is special in that it is known to the Greenfoot environment. There is a button down here called act, and when I click act here, the act method of every object in the world is being invoked. So by clicking act here, every one of my hedgehogs, and in fact the apple as well, is told to act. The apple just doesn't do anything, it just lies there. But the hedgehogs will all act and will perform one step of their action. And in this case we see that this hedgehog, for example, moved forward, this one has turned to the left, and this one has eaten an apple. Let us just put some more apples in. By the way, there's a shortcut. Instead of just always right-clicking the class, selecting new apple and put it in, I can hold the Shift key on my keyboard. If I hold the Shift key and then click in the world, that's a shortcut to more quickly create objects of the class that is currently selected here. So if I now click act, every time I click act, the hedgehogs will move one step. Then there is a button here called run. The run button just executes act over and over again. So if I click run, the hedgehogs just run around the screen until I stop them again. So this is how we execute programs in Greenfoot. And so they walk around more or less randomly, and if they happen to run over an apple, they will eat the apple. This is how programs are running. Let me show you one last thing, and that is here, that word at the beginning of the method. We see here that we have a number of methods here, such as turn random, turn left, move, but there is a word at the beginning of it. For some of them it is void. This term at the beginning is called the return type. The return type tells me whether this method returns a reply to me when I invoke it. So the word void means nothing. So this method returns nothing to me when I invoke it. If I invoke move, for example, this method will just execute and give me no response back. It just does what I tell it to, and that is it. If the word at the beginning is anything other than void, for example here it is int, there it is Boolean, that means that that method will answer back to me with a response. And that word at the beginning tells me what kind of response I'm getting. Int is short for integer, and integer is a whole number, which tells me that when I invoke this method, getApplesEaten, this method will respond to me by giving me a number as a reply, because this method actually tells me how many apples this hedgehog has eaten. So if I invoke this, the hedgehog doesn't do anything, it didn't move, but I get a response back. This is telling me this hedgehog has eaten 4 apples. It tells me the call to getApplesEaten has returned an integer number which was 4. So I can ask this hedgehog here, how many apples have you eaten? And it tells me 2. There is another possible type here called Boolean. Boolean is a return response that consists of 2 possible answers, and they are true or false. And every time I invoke this method here, it will answer with either true or false. The method I just invoked was called canMove. I'm asking this hedgehog, can you move forward at the moment? And it says true, meaning yes, I can. If I move this hedgehog so that it faces the edge of my world, and now it can't move forward, and I say, okay, can you move now? It will say false. No, I can't move now. So this is enough for today. These is an introduction into the important concepts. Play around with it. We will next time look at actual Java code. We can open up the class. I can select Open Editor here, and there what you see here is how all the behavior of the hedgehog is defined, and this is Java code. This window is called an editor, and what we're seeing here is the source code of the hedgehog. We will learn over the next few months how to write this Java code to make our objects do things we want them to do. But for today, it is important to just understand the fundamental principles. That is, we have classes in a scenario. The classes define the things that will make up our program. From a class we can create an object. In fact, from a class we can create many objects. We can communicate with the objects by invoking their methods. Methods may have a return value that gives us a response back. And the classes are defined by source code, Java code, that specifies what objects of that class can do. That's enough for today, so open up this scenario yourself and play around with this a bit, and then come back for the next episode. Alright, so that's enough for today. That's enough to think about and to let sink in. What you have seen today is that we have started talking about the main concepts of object orientation, so keep those in mind, try to become familiar with those. Next time we will start writing code ourselves. So the methods you have seen that make objects do something, next time we will look into how it works to write our own methods to make an object do something that we want to make it do, rather than just invoking a method and make it do what it already can do. One last thing before I finish for today. There is a Twitter account, a Twitter stream that you can follow if you want to get updates about new episodes of this tutorial sequence, The Joy of Code, being posted. It's called Joy of Code. If you are interested to get a tweet every time a new episode comes out, follow that account and you'll be kept up to date. Okay, that's it for today. See you next time. Bye bye.